Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another episode of Wear Many Hats. Hope you're all well. I have had a nightmare today. Train cancellations, I've bought multiple tickets, multiple car parking fees, but I managed to get into the city to do this podcast. So, my pleasure. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us once again. Another great show for you, but as ever, please like, share, and follow the podcast across all the mediums that you listen on. The more that you share it, the more that you follow, the easier it is for our content to get to young people or even middle-aged people or older people that are looking to move into the facilities management industry. Anyway, really exciting show. We've got a superb guest here today. Me and him maybe know each other from many years ago based on the beginning conversation, but we'll talk about that in the pub afterwards. I'd like to welcome Andy Kelly, who is the Director of Facilities Management and Infrastructure at the Manchester Central Convention Complex. Hello, mate. How you doing? You all right?
I'm okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. Day? Yeah, it's been a great day. It's a great day when you come down from the north and you see how you southern guys work and operate.
Where you see all the sparkle and the money.
Absolutely. And then you want to get out on the train as quick as you go.
Exactly, yeah. Where there's less traffic and things are a little bit easier.
The hustle and bustle, you can only take so much.
Yeah, get out of the hustle and bustle as soon as possible.
Definitely.
So, what have you been up to today, Andy?
So I was down for the awards, the IWFM awards yesterday.
Right, okay.
Last night. So that was a great evening. You know, it's a great sort of pinnacle of the FM calendar.
Very much so, yeah.
Great to see and celebrate great talent in our industry. And then today I was at New Scotland Yard with the Association of Events and Venues,
right.
A security working group where all venues come together and we share best practice. We have a lot of discussions around topics, one being Martin's Law. Let's go.
I was going to ask you about that actually, yeah, because that's quite a pertinent thing that's happening within the industry at the minute, isn't it?
So I think it got its first debate last night in Parliament. So I'm not sure what's come out of that yet at the moment, but I think for a lot of venues, a lot of large venues, it'll definitely change how we operate and for the better and to make them safer places where we can all go,
which is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Let's be honest. We'll come back to that,
okay.
Because I think that's actually a very interesting subject to get your expert opinion on, which I think would be important. Let's talk firstly though about the IDUF. Is it usually on a Monday?
Again, a lot of people talking about this. Can we move it from the Monday because it's all the sore heads on the Tuesday? It's always on a Monday.
Yeah, and it's quite unusual, isn't it?
Well, they'll probably enter into a contract with the Grosvenor, you see, so they'll book that date, the same dates, every year.
Half like 5 years in advance or
Correct,
something like that.
That's right.
Okay.
That's
so basically, all FM professionals, if you go to that event, book the Tuesday off. Okay.
And there'll be some with lots of sore heads today.
Exactly.
I'm sure there will be.
Yeah. Someone we know actually won the Young FM of the Year award. So I have to say this, huge congratulations to Brooke Whitman for winning that award yesterday at the IWFM Awards. Well
she was sat behind me.
Was she?
That's how I knew she'd won, because it was one of the largest cheers of the night. I turned round and there she was, jumping up and down.
Oh, she's a good egg. She's a really good egg. So it's absolutely fantastic.
And she's starting her journey in FM, you know, and it's a great start.
Yeah.
It's a great start.
Well, you don't get much better than that, do you? To be fair. You know?
Absolutely. I know how she feels. I stood on that stage many years ago.
So what award did you win out of interest?
I won FM of the Year back in 2007.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
So it was great. Yeah, it's a great time. It's a long time ago. But yeah, it's a great night, great celebration, and it was life-changing. Very life-changing in terms of my career path in FM and where it could have gone and where it did go. So very, very proud moment, as well as very humbling to stand in front of your peers and be voted FM of the Year.
Yeah.
And since then I've judged the awards, various categories.
Yeah.
For the last 17 years, been a lead judge.
Yeah.
And it's my way of giving something back to the industry, but also you see lots of examples of best practice and that old cliche, you get to pinch with pride, don't you, and take it back to your own workplace and try and adapt it and implement it into your working life or to the contracts.
But it's quite good that, like, early on in your FM career, you were kind of inspired by that, and you've taken that sort of baton on throughout the remainder of your career, and, you know, in terms of developing, you know, future FM professionals and so on and so forth.
And I was young when I won it, very young. Well, when I say young, my FM career was quite young.
Yeah.
And I remember getting asked a question by one of the judges. So I did something very different in terms of the presentation. When you go through a number of stages, you know, you do your original submission.
Yeah.
So I worked for Siemens at the time, and I got one of the young. I worked at Siemens Congleton. I got one of the young graduates to help me pull a film together, like a video diary of what I did.
Yeah.
And I submitted that. That was part of my presentation, although, as ever, tech failed. In them days, you could do everything in FM except tech. Yeah. But we got through it. But the last question...
Quite innovative at the time, though, to be thinking about video, to be fair, Andy.
Absolutely,
well done.
Yeah. So it was just, you know, you just tried to do something different instead of death by PowerPoint, don't we? We've all done it.
Yeah.
And one of the judges said to me, if you don't win this year, you know, you should always try again next year.
Yeah.
And my question, I just, well, why can't I win?
Yeah.
And, you know, there was a conversation about a bit of backtracking. Oh, no, I didn't mean it like that, you know.
Yeah.
And when I did win, you know, the judge at the time, the lead judge at the time, came up to me and said, that question, we had a discussion afterwards.
Yeah.
Why couldn't he win? You know, because at the time, you know, the industry's got some bad press of, you know, it was, you know, very male orientated. It was a bit of a stigma around how to get in, to break into FM, break into the ceiling, etc. And I was a relatively young FM professional. I'd only probably been working in FM 5 years, if not more. You know, more. So it was quite, you know, it's quite unique to give me, you know, award me that.
Yeah, of course. Well, look, Andy, why don't you talk us through your journey into FM?
Okay.
You know, how did that? Where did you come from? How did it?
So it's that old cliche, like most of us, you know, that one. We
fell
all
into it.
Fell into it. Yeah. So yeah, that's exactly. So I'm ex-military. I served in the armed forces from mid 80s, then to the early 90s.
Well, first, thank you for your service. I suppose it's important to say that.
Yeah. I love that. I always wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Could I say I always wanted to do FM? No, because I just didn't know what FM was. So,
I don't think anybody does.
No.
Which is why we're here.
Absolutely. Spreading the word, spreading the gospel.
Spreading the good word.
Absolutely. So yeah, I stood on Darlington train station in November 1990 with 2 whole doors with my 7 years life in 2 bags, thinking what am I going to do now?
I know that well. I remember leaving the military as well, so I know that very well.
I mean, I loved it. You know, unfortunately, I was involved in a sort of bad incident. You know, I was involved in an IRA car bomb when I was serving in Germany. So know, 2 of my colleagues died. I survived. I was the lucky one, if you could call that lucky. No, I do call that lucky, actually. So, you know...
Well, it's not lucky having to deal with the aftermath, but lucky that you survived the scenario. Absolutely. And that's an important distinction, I think, when you're thinking about things like that.
And it is, yeah, you're right. And I suppose, you know, I was lucky because I got some great treatment. I was treated in a hospital in Holland, and if not, I probably would have lost my left arm. So it's like... I suppose when you look at people, you don't understand their mental health and things. So you're probably looking at me and go, well, he looks like a normal guy, etc. Yeah. But the whole of my sort of left-hand side of my body was severely scarred, burned, etc., etc.
Wow.
So yeah, I count myself lucky for that.
Yeah, but PTSD wasn't necessarily recognised then either, was it?
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, it wasn't recognised. And again, I got some great treatment from a chap called Wing Commander Turnbull, who was one of the first physicians in the military to recognise and document PTSD, and I fell under his care for a number of months, etc. So
you actually to be quite lucky then, really, in that sense.
Yeah. And I was, and it's, you know, you
Not that
you
you lucky,
manage-
that's the wrong
no.
word, lucky, isn't it, I suppose?
you manage PTSD, and
Yeah,
you know there's lots of people out there. PTSD is not just about the military. And anyone who's had an incident, sad, anything sad, anything like that, can get PTSD.
Yeah,
It's just how you manage it, and I manage it. That's why I can talk about it now.
Yeah.
Probably for years, I wouldn't talk about anything. I wouldn't talk about anything. I won't open up to anyone about it, and then you go in front of professionals, and they get you to talk about it. They get you to learn to manage and cope with that sort of trauma that I went through. So it's a
Well, thank you for sharing that, Andy. Really appreciate it.
No, it's fine. It's okay. It's just one of those things. I think I'll look back on now. I'll look back on my military life and go, would I do it all again? Of course, I'd do it again. I loved my time in the military. You know, again, I was at a top table, which was a big leaving party last week of a friend who I served with 38 years ago. You know, and I saw guys there who I hadn't seen for 30 odd years. And when you go back, I don't think you ever lose that camaraderie in the forces. And I do think I took some of the working practices, principles into my civilian career, into life, and I still hold now some of those working practices. It's timekeeping, detailed, and we've all done that, analysing, our brains, which type of brain have we got, and I'm a very detailed thinker. I need to process driven and very detailed driven. And that's probably again through my working career, because after leaving the military, I worked in Manchester Airport. I just didn't know what I wanted to do for a number of years on aviation security. Former FM in the loose terms.
Well, a lot of people come into FM via that sort of security route anyway. It is actually quite a well-known route.
Then I worked. Luckily, I got a break to work on the runway 2 team.
Right.
When Manchester Airport was building a runway 2.
Yeah.
And I chased Swampy and his colleagues around the countryside of Manchester. So working with the sheriff's team and looking
at these two won't know Swampy is.
No,
I remember Swampy.
Yes. An interesting time.
Yeah.
And then I just got the lucky break into FM. A chap I knew, was friends with, he went to work for the accident group, and they were where there's blame is a claim, and then he took me on working in FM. It's just more about, because he knew who I was very detailed, very organised person, because that's a lot of FM's about that. It's about being detailed, being able to plan things, etc.
Yeah. And also being a bit of a jack of all trades, really. Having an understanding of multiple facets operating within a space.
Being able to build relationships, being able to talk with people, whether it's at the highest level or the lowest level. I think that's
the cleaner all the way up to the CEO. Without a doubt. Yeah.
And it's effective communication, isn't it? You're being able to talk at levels, on a one-to-one. People being able to respect people's roles, etc.
I've got some news for you. You'll never guess what. The Wear Many Hats crew are going to be at Anticipate London, the new revamped facilities show, from the 2nd to the 4th of December at the ExCeL in London. We'll be there for the entirety of the event, but we're not just going to be there, we're also going to be delivering a live panel show podcast. Why not come down, check us out, meet us in person, and take the time to come to the new revamped facilities show. Hope to see you all there at Anticipate London from the 2nd to the 4th of December at the ExCeL. See you later.
So, I worked for those for the accident group for a number of years, but unfortunately, the accident group went bust because the chairman ran off. So it went into liquidation. I was away on holiday, believe it or not, and I flew back into the country. My phone wouldn't work, and I rang my boss, and his wife picked up and said, she said, "Have you not heard?" I went, "Heard nothing. No." And they were Man City sponsors at the time.
That does not surprise me. There we go. Says it all.
So, they were first advised. So they ran first advised, the accident group. Be careful, I'm a blue.
Well, I'm a red bit. We can do this all day long if you want. I'm not bothered. I'm not
Oh,
bothered.
no.
We'll talk about those 150 charges if you want.
It's all going to go pear-shaped.
I'm joking. Let's keep the football and the politics out of it, Andy, yeah?
Absolutely. So I rang up. She says, oh, yeah, they've gone off, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And he ran off with the pension fund, everything.
I think I remember that, you know.
Well, he died a few years later in a road traffic accident in Port-au-Banús. So there's karma, as he could say. No, it's not, you don't want it.
A happy accident, maybe. Nice.
Yeah, so then I just popped my CV out, and luckily Siemens came looking, and I started working for Siemens in Manchester, the big white building in Manchester, for those who know it, on Princess Parkway. So, that was how I truly got into FM, and that's where it quickly snowballed. And
So was it whilst at Siemens that you won the Facilities Manager of the Year award?
I did, but I was working I got promoted and had gone to Siemens Congleton after a couple of years. I went to Siemens Congleton, which is a manufacturing facility in Congleton. Very, very profitable and well-run factory, won Best Factory Awards. That's when I was working for Siemens Congleton there, when I was an FM.
Right, okay. Yeah, because I see that, like, sort of during that period, you went through quite a significant sort of promotion spree, is probably the best way to explain it.
Absolutely, very fast.
Yeah, very, very quickly. What advice would you give to people that, perhaps are, within a more low-level role within FM, like a facilities coordinator or something along those lines? What advice would you give to those individuals that want to start moving up in the industry? How did you do it, and what advice would you give to them?
Listen.
Yeah.
Listen to your peers, colleagues. Ask loads of questions. Don't be scared. And I've just taken on a new facility coordinator this week, and I was speaking with her, and I said to her, please ask questions. I'm here to develop you, and you're here to learn. It's gone are the old days of go and fetch, go and make the tea, go and make the coffee, go and do this. You're here to develop yourself and nurture your experience, etc., etc. So just ask those questions, but also, you need to look at what academic lines you can do to further enhance your knowledge. You just need to have all those, those feathers in your bow, and that. So when you do move on, you've got the skill set to move up that level.
Yeah.
And just be prepared to take a risk. I was quite scared when I was moving out of Manchester. I was in this comfort zone of working in Siemens Manchester, big corporate office block, number of different operating companies. And then we said, I was told, I went to Siemens Congleton when there was a reshuffle in the business. And I went there on Christmas Eve, and I was told, you're taking over this facility.
On Christmas Eve? Really?
Temporarily, with the view to making it permanent. I said, and anyone who knows Siemens Congleton, it's a very leafy suburb in Cheshire, very nice.
Yeah, very nice, yeah.
But it's not the city, is it?
No.
So I went there and went, right, okay. It's like trying to get used to something new.
Yeah. So you rub your hands together and went, I'll have a bit of this.
And I'm looking at this facility, manufacturing facility, and I'm going, really? Do I want this? And it's, the first thing I did when I came back on just after New Year was doing a full month end. I'm going, right, okay. I don't know these accounts. My handover was literally Christmas Eve.
Wow. From
the outgoing FM, hard FM and soft FM, so they were doing it. So it's quite...
So they went quite quickly then, I'm guessing.
They went...
So no handover at all, really, and in quite a complex environment.
Very much so. And, I remember meeting the managing director of Siemens for the first time on the shop floor in the factory, and he's looking up at the roof, and he said to me, that roof's got 42 leaks on it, and you need to fix it.
Wow.
And I went, right, okay. So it's... Yeah, well, eventually it was.
Yeah.
But, it was things like, and you'll see them now, they're called pigs. They're like umbrellas, and you'll see them at that time, they were quite new and innovative and things like that. So this factory just ended up with loads of these. But it didn't rain in the factory. So again, it was a tick in the box.
Win-win. Yeah.
So, I'd listened to what the client wanted and went and did it, etc. And that's, I think I got quite a lot of kudos at Siemens Congleton. Again, in a few years later, they changed managing director Siemens every 2 or 4 years. I remember this Finbar is Southern Irish, and I'm still friends with him now on LinkedIn. And if you listen, Finbar, your football team's rubbish because he supports Liverpool.
Yeah.
But
I agree with you there wholeheartedly. We found common ground.
So he said to me, the first thing he said to me, he says, "Andy, I've heard you're a great guy," because I was sat on the management team. I got myself sat within the Siemens management team on their board. And he says, "I heard you're a great guy." He said, "But it's part of when the recession was happening," he says, "but you're my biggest cost of this business.
Yeah.
And you need to go away and half your operating costs." So I'm going, right, okay.
Yeah.
So I went
no pressure.
Well, there was, So I'm going, right, what am I going to do? This big chap, I won't say softly spoken Southern Irish, quite, strongly spoken Southern Irish chap. Nice chap, absolutely, very nice chap. But he said it quite sternly. So I went, right. So I went away and I did, a bronze, silver. I went through every service line and went, right, here's a bronze, silver and a gold, depending on the risk, and for every different service line. And I just presented it back to the management team and said, there you go, take your pick. Yeah. What do you want? It's how much risk do you want to take as a business? So at the time, we were delivering full catering and hospitality staff canteens. So you could turn around and say, okay, and we were delivering a breakfast, lunch and tea. Well, okay, we'll take lunch away. That'll save X. Or you can go to a full vending solution. That's it.
Completely.
We weren't doing daytime cleaning at the time. It was all nighttime cleaning. So we did a hybrid model. So I put the onus on them to make the choice on the amount of savings. And he reminds me of it. He says to me, when I left, he says, "You listened to me. You came back, you gave us the opportunity, you just didn't go and hide and do something," which I think it's, again, if I've got to give somebody a bit of advice, is you just listen to what your clients say. Don't hide or shy away from it. Even if they ask you a difficult question, if you don't know the answer, go back and tell them you don't know, but you'll go and find out. Yeah. It's one of my mantras in life. Never say, there's always something you can do in FM.
Yeah.
You might not know the answer, but you can go and find the answer.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not technical. I haven't got technical competence instead of like an electrician. But I'll surround myself with good electricians.
Yeah.
And people who deliver great services.
Yeah.
So I worked for Siemens, and then that's when I won the award. And Siemens decided to outsource FM. I could have stayed with Siemens.
Yeah.
But that was working more on leases and estate side, and I wanted to stay in ops. I love ops.
Yeah.
So I then had the chance to, I cheaped it over to Carillion. Carillion wanted me.
Yep.
And again, they gave me some great sounding. I got to see lots of different contracts.
Yep.
Work within their centre of excellence for cleaning at the time.
Yep.
It was their centre of excellence, cleaning champion, believe it or not.
Right. Okay.
Which was again a good kudos, because it was all the contracts around that Carillion had, and we all had a centre of excellence.
Yeah.
Person who attended and was voted that, so that gave me a great sounding into that.
Okay.
And then I left Carillion to go and work at Interserve.
Right. Okay.
Again, another outsource. So that was that was a PFI contract, the Health and Safety Laboratories.
Was it really?
In Buxton, yeah. So
how did you find operating within a PFI contract, out of interest?
I'd always told myself I was going to stay away from them, because you hear these horror stories, don't you?
Yeah.
Contracts, blah, 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 all this stuff. And I was headhunted, to be fair.
Yeah.
And I just liked the challenge. I suppose what I did within Siemens, I'd built my team up, and you get to the point when you start to look at your phone too much and you go, right, I know, I need to move on. I'd got my succession plan. Yeah. And I got to that point, and the right opportunity came along at the right time. Yeah. I'm not one of those people who just jump ship at the dollar. It's the actual values of the business I'm going to needed to match up. And I had a chat with, in fact, I saw him last night, Mark. If you're listening, Mark, hi. He's an ex-Navy guy, but he works for...
I'm ex-Navy as well.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so there's a lot of Marks in the Navy, like I say.
So, yeah, I spoke to him, and it is at the interview, he was telling me, really difficult client, massively challenging client who had the contracts out. But, right, okay, so I had a couple of interviews, and then the final panel was with the SBV and the client from the Health and Safety Laboratories, and it was one of the most challenging interviews I've ever done. It was, it was really, really...
The type of interview where you walked out thinking, I've not got that.
Well,
that kind of...
It was, but I was also thinking, do I really want this job? Because it's one of his comments was to me, I know this contract in and out. If you are successful, you probably need to come to me to understand the contract. And I thought, well, if I get the job, I'll read the contract myself.
Yes.
That's what you do. You read the contract and you understand it, which I did. And I'm glad I got it. I went into the labs, and the first thing I did was sign a 6-figure financial penalty for not operating a management system, allegedly. They had a management system, so technically I should have challenged it. Yeah. But I was told, just sign it, we'll deal with it, and we'll turn it on.
Yeah.
And that's what they are, PFIs, aren't they? Financially penalising because they're over budget. And
challenging. Yeah, the budget is very stringently controlled within that environment. Yeah. So
and I changed that. Restructured. The team was very working in silos. It was again, the first 2 years were quite challenging when I turned it back. But by the time I left, it was one of the most profitable Interserve contracts in central government.
Right.
It was turning over about 22%. I hadn't had a financial penalty in 3 years.
Well, that's not bad going in.
Well, and it was a reference site for Interserve.
Right. Okay.
So it had become, we did turn it around. We had a good team.
Yeah.
But again, I'd got to the point where I'd got a succession plan. I knew I'd done it. I needed to move on.
Needed a new challenge.
Correct. And again, Manchester Central, it came up. I came along to the interview, and the last time I'd set foot in the venue, I worked for the accident group, and we'd hide it out for the evening for our Christmas function, throwing everyone up from around the country. There was about 5,000 employees there. Yeah. And he'll probably say to us, now I know why you went bust. It was a free evening. Yeah. Edwin Starr was on. God bless his soul.
I recognise that name, but I can't picture
Edwin Starr. Contact, he sang. That was his song.
Contact.
I'm not going to sing into this microphone.
Come on, Andy.
Come on, mate. No, I'm definitely
You're already talking. You might as well start singing.
I'm not doing that. Contact. Those who know it will know it.
Okay.
Atomic Kitten was on.
I know Atomic Kitten.
Well, correct. So, it's not good, Atomic Kitten, when I think there was a few plastic bottles getting thrown at, I don't know her name.
Kerry Katona?
Correct, her. And
she's done some interesting things.
She said, if you throw it wasn't directed me, if you throw any more plastic bottles, we won't do another song. Well, load of Manx to some.
Oh, God, here we go. In the 90s.
But that was my icebreaker at my interview going, I was here. So, and then I joined, I joined Manchester Central 10 days after the Manchester Arena bomb.
Yeah.
Wow. That was another wow moment.
So that would have been in a very significant period of change as well, because they would be reassessing everything after that, wouldn't they?
And it was the outgoing FM director. He did a great handover to me, but the whole changing of how venues operated and made them secure, etc.
Yeah,
but it was a really it was a dark period for the whole of Manchester.
It was, it was horrific. Yeah.
And when we move on now, I've met Fegan Murray a number of times. She's been in the venue a number of times. I started at the venue exactly the same time as my boss, the new chief exec. Yeah. So we started the same day, actually.
Right.
So,
okay.
Sean Hines, he's just moved on to Newbury Racecourse last year. But Fegan's been there a number of times. She spoke at the venue a number of times. So and it's a great what she's done is, truly remarkable, and getting Martin's Law to where it is today, with the help of some other people along the way. But it's changing the events industry.
So for those that don't know, that are listening, just tell us a little bit about what Martin's Law is and how it will perhaps be structured. I know that they're debating it and things like that, and also how do you think it'll affect event spaces and so on and so forth?
So I'm sure it will get passed. So basically, it's making sure that the security measures in venue, there's different tiers. So if you're over at 800 people,
it's based on the footfall, isn't it?
Correct. You've got enhanced, which our venue will be.
Yeah.
So it's ensuring that people have got the right training, proportionate security measures are in place to make people safe.
Yes.
And Fegan tells many stories about, when she was sat in the theatre and she was overwhelmed because she didn't have a bag checked, etc., etc. So it's ensuring that those measures are in place to, for people to be safe in venues and, just when they go out.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these things are already taking place now, though, aren't they? Post the Manchester in most sort of larger events, I would say that a lot of these measures have already been adopted by private security companies and things like that. Would you agree, or would that be or do you think that we've got to legislate for it, or it's just not going to happen properly?
It needs some form of legislation. Absolutely, it does need that, because there's lots of learning from the Manchester Arena, and it's not just about training and the measures. It's about what aids are in there to help if something unfortunate does happen again. Is the right equipment in there to help the people if anyone's injured? Because again, I think that was one of the findings in the arena, that wasn't in place. Those trauma kits weren't in place.
So people died that wouldn't have died if that help was there.
Right. Because they talk about that, that first half hour, that when an incident happens, you could be on your own until the emergency services arrive and deem that a safe space for them to come in, etc. So it's about training your people to deal with that, having the equipment to deal with that, recognising, the act training, making sure all your team have that act awareness training.
Like
that. So hopefully it's been a journey. It's been a journey.
Well, it has been quite a while now, really, hasn't it?
It has.
It was 2007 the bombing, was it? Am I right saying that? Was it
2017?
So 17,
yeah.
2007. Well, that's 2017.
Yeah. So it has, and hopefully now that the government's committed to, taking it through Parliament, we'll get them steps to make sure that these responsible people are in positions and are accountable people to making sure the measures are in place, which they should be. Yeah. And I do think venues, especially our venue, we've already put measures in place. We've already trained people, making sure we've already got trauma kits in place and other equipment to support if such an incident should happen. We have, our security and stewarding. We search everyone who comes into the venue, whether it's bag search or using technology. So it's making sure that those measures are in place. And, everyone deserves to go home safe.
Yeah.
From,
it's just crazy to think that it happened, isn't it? Really, like, I remember when it happened, but I still, when I think about it now, I just can't believe it happened. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know. But if you think about Manchester as a city, to 1996.
Of all the events where it could have happened, it was kind of that one.
Well, they had the 1996 IRA car bomb, didn't they?
Yeah, that was in the shopping centre. The Arndale Centre.
Yeah. And then the arena. It's two humongous events, catastrophic events, that have changed the city. And the city has changed. It's a great destination, Manchester.
Yeah.
Got one good football team, one bad football team, and we know who that is.
Oh, you mean the one that's there's won 13 Premier League titles, yeah?
One that's won 4 on the bounce.
You can't buy a history, mate. I got him there. Listeners, I've flummoxed him. He can't say anything. I'm kidding. Now, you guys done very, very well. But, the treble, right?
Quadruple.
Well, kind of.
Well, no, we won 4 leagues. United.
What do you mean, the Club World Cup?
No, 4 Premier Leagues.
Oh, right. I thought you were talking about the quadruple.
Quadruple's
never been done. See, you're making things up now.
Let's get back to FM.
Let's get back to FM. Okay, cool. So, listen, Andy, you've had quite a varied career in terms of the type of verticals you've operated in, the type of facilities that you've managed, the teams that you've managed, and so on and so forth. Was there any trepidation at any point in your career where you were perhaps worried to move into a sector that you didn't necessarily understand, or did you believe in your skill set and think that you could apply that skill set to any environment?
That's a good question. I suppose I've been put at risk.
Yeah.
So when you work in the outsource world, lots of reorganisation. I've been put at risk a couple of times.
Yeah.
And that's quite daunting. And
It is.
you'll always question yourself and your ability and think, oh God, what's going to happen? And unfortunately, I've had to put people at risk when I've done reorganisation.
I mean, to be fair, it's a horrific thing actually to go through. I've been at risk a couple of times. It is horrific. It's not nice.
It's not nice at all.
You get straight into your head, don't you? Do you know?
And you do. You question yourself and think, well, how they, everyone's vying for, position, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's not a nice. Have I ever?
It's quite adversarial, but in a professional setting, if that makes sense. So I completely understand that. Yeah.
So it was quite interesting when I worked for Siemens and I went across to Carillion, because myself and a colleague were basically colleagues for Siemens FM, and then when I went to Carillion, this lady became my client. Yeah. And the whole relationship sort of changed.
Dynamic changed.
Totally changed. Where
it's weird though, yeah.
She was questioning me on things, and I'm thinking,
who are you?
Hang on a minute. we sat having a glass of wine 3 days ago. Now you're saying that the service is rubbish.
Yeah.
And it took a bit of straight talking after a few weeks to say, listen, where's this going? Why all of a sudden is it, client and contractor, and you're trying to beat me up for something because you're still working for Siemens?
How interesting that it went that way.
And do you know what? I had a mentor, one of my first mentors, and I had to discuss that with them. How do you handle that relationship when 1 minute your work colleagues, quite middle managers, managing quite a large portfolio of buildings, then all of a sudden that colleague becomes a client. Yeah. And, this mentor sort of taught me a few tricks. It's about having that conversation with them, and telling them, I'm here to make you look good. Yeah. If you let me do my job, I'll make you look good in front of your peers, etc., and, we'll both prosper out of this. But make me look back. People start to question you. Well, you should be managing that bit. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, let's not blame. Don't create a blame culture, because it's not collaborative, is it?
And that was a really, really that initial period from
transition.
Yeah, it was really, really.
I imagine that
crazy.
Would be actually. Yeah.
And I suppose again, I've only really stupid once, and that again, that's a period of everyone's worried again, aren't they? Going and then also, especially the more senior you become, because when you move into a new organisation, you're going in the outsource where we all know how it happens, don't we? We know they look to cut
You've got to
costs.
prove yourself all over again. You've got to go through the processes, build trust, relationships. It's actually a very complex period to navigate. And if you haven't been through it, I don't think you can necessarily understand it. Because I've been involved in acquisitions. I've worked for companies where other companies have come in and done acquisitions. So you're part of a team that then doubles because you're in a much larger organisation, but they don't need as many heads. Yeah. And then they're like, it's like Britain's Got Talent, but in a really, really crap way.
But I think you've got to have that. You've got to have that self-belief. Yeah. You've got to be confident in your own ability and know that what you're doing is the best you can do.
Exactly.
And if you know that, and people will see that, and you don't shirk away from things, I am one of those persons I am quite confident in, I'm passionate about wanting to deliver exceptional customer experience, etc.
Yeah.
And I'm passionate about service and things like that, but also be quite open and admit, if we do something wrong, we don't mask it, just be open and honest and say, listen, we've dropped one.
Hands up.
We'll do it. We'll learn from that.
Yeah,
we'll move on, and we'll take whatever's coming to us, etc. But hopefully, people understand that, and then you build the rapport, the relationship, where that people. I'm sure you've been there. You've listened to people, and you're thinking, you're waffling.
Yeah.
You're telling me something that I know is not true, and
yes.
and they'll dig themselves into a hole, and then you go, oh, right, here we go.
Here's a spade. I actually get given spades lots. That's the nature of my job, to be fair. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about ESG. Obviously, you've been in the industry for quite a few years now, Andy. You'll have seen a lot of changes in that time period, both direct client and also contractor. What's your view on ESG, and how do you see it changing as we move forward?
It's a good thing. And the industry, when I say the institute has massively changed, and the way they operate, the awards, it's just massively changed for the better, and quite rightly so. I work in an industry now where on our leadership team there's three gents, 4 females.
Yeah.
Oh, that's from a leadership team, could we do better?
Yeah.
From an ethnicity point of view.
Sometimes
absolutely.
It's tough though, isn't it?
It is,
because we have a similar issue sometimes, in terms of diversity and things like that. But sometimes it is a really difficult thing to do.
But I think the fact that we're having these conversations, a very open conversations, is good.
Yeah.
And we should be discussing it, and we should be making these changes. It shouldn't be just oh, you can't talk about that, you can't do that. Ooh, I'm not sure about that. It's everyone's got their own personalities, and you should be able to bring them personalities to work.
Yeah.
Not to hide it away, or never to be spoken about, or never to be recognised. It's about being open and honest. And
I do agree with that to a certain point, but I get sometimes a little bit confused about this, because I think there's an element of professionalism in what we do, okay, and our professional and personal lives are different. At least it always has been throughout my career, and I think that you can't necessarily blend the personal into the professional too much, or that can be quite confrontational, because not everybody thinks the same way. We're not uniform in a box. So I think we have to be very careful about how we navigate that.
It can't be a numbers game.
No.
And I do think that happens in certain organisations.
Without a doubt, it does. Yeah.
You're making the numbers up just to a tick box exercise. For whatever reason, to tick your ESG box or your quotas, as some people say. And that's wrong.
Yes.
That's wrong. But I agree in terms of you can't drive people into positions when they're not ready for it. It's about making sure they've got the tools to be ready for those.
Well, you're setting them up to fail, fundamentally. Because,
right.
ultimately the responsibility would sit with them for whatever role that they've been given or whatever. So, you've got to make sure that they have the support, the capabilities to be able to deliver on what the expectation is, if that makes sense. Yeah,
no, it does. Yeah. And again, go back to having those, it needs to be led from the top as well, not just from the bottom. It needs to be led and recognised, and having that ESG strategy. A lot of businesses say they have, but again, it's quite fluffy, isn't it? Our business, have we got a robust ESG strategy? No. Absolutely not. But do we aspire to have one? Yeah, of course we do. And would we like to see it, fully developed and nurtured, so we do see everyone coming through from all aspects of life. Yeah, of course we would, but it doesn't happen.
No.
We don't live in that world, unfortunately.
No, I think everybody wants to do the right thing, don't they? I think, and I think that in terms of our industry, I think it's probably one of the better industries.
Yeah.
In terms of bringing people from diverse backgrounds and cultures and things like that into it. But it's complex, you know. It is complex because firstly you've got to get those people and they've got to have an interest in it, and they've got to know what it is, and they've got to understand that they can come in and make a viable career out of it, and things like that. So
I work in the FM industry, in the events industry, which is, you know, I was talking about this last night. Everyone says, "Oh yeah, every day in FM's different." You know, well, if you somebody said to me, said, if I put you back in the corporate world, you'd get bored, Andy, because in my industry, we have a different event every day.
Yeah.
You know, so it is truly a different day.
Yeah.
You know, because and you just see the churns of different types of events and people and all sorts of professions in there. So, and I think the events industry is relatively juvenile. Yeah. In terms of its journey on ESG.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think every industry probably is though, because it's because we've got the next generation coming into the workforce now with different expectations and things like that. So it's going to evolve again because we had we had Gen X come in and then the millennials and things like that, and it changed.
Yeah.
Because the millennials and Gen X are in sort of more senior positions now, which is driving it a little bit. But then what is the next generation? Z. Yeah. Gen Z will come through and the same thing will happen. It'll push on further still. So it'll just keep.
And I think COVID's had a lot to do with that.
Yeah,
you know, I think COVID, we were in Nightingale, you know, our venue. So, it was quite, I worked through it, and it's quite interesting watching a convention centre being turned into an 800 bed Nightingale hospital in 13 days, and you're looking at a grade 2-star listed bed, and you can't knock that venue about. We can. And came the military and
really
a couple of FM providers and bashed it about for 13 days. Next thing you know, we did have, you know, contrary to popular belief, we did have people in that hospital.
So there was there?
Yeah.
Right.
So we were. I can't remember the actual numbers, but we did have people. Then it became a step down hospital in phase 2 or whatever. But the point being, I think COVID accelerated FM in terms of tech.
Yeah.
You know, and then working practices. You know, in terms of flexible working from home. It was always about working from home, but it was. All right, well, now it's all flexible working, this, that. But you never really had the tech, did you?
No.
Now you've got the tech. You know, we all use Teams. Or, you know, even Zoom now is what? Zoom? What's that? You know, generally it's Teams. And
not a big Zoom fan myself. I prefer Teams.
I'm a Teams person as well. But that's
whenever someone sends me a Zoom invite, I go,
and you go, install, here we go again. Yeah.
And I think, send me a Teams invite, please.
And I think that's that, you know, and getting people back in the office, and from an FM perspective now, you know, people in the outsource sector, it's your whole methodology in delivering FM in workspace has changed because you don't know if that person's going to. So that person reports above the desk, the light's broken. Well, for 3 of those next 3 days, they might not be there. So do you really need to change that light? Yeah. Because someone might not. So the priorities have shifted in terms of do you really need to fix that in terms of the priorities from your CAFM help desk.
It's a more dynamic approach, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it is. And you know, people are selling space, do they need it cleaning all the time, etc., etc. So it's a tough gig, I'd say, in the outsourced world in sort of FM perspective. So
no, I agree.
That's probably why I like being an in-house model.
In
charge of our own destiny, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay, so let's moving on to technology slightly. We're getting towards the end now, Andy. Technology. Have you been keeping up to date with old Elon Musk and his activities? Have you come across the Optimuses yet?
I haven't. Go on. Are you going to enlighten me?
Yeah. So he's developed actual walking, moving robots.
Oh, sorry, I have seen.
Yes,
I have seen this.
Yeah. They were serving people drinks at an event.
Correct.
And communicate with them and things like that.
Yeah.
Going to cost the average person about $30,000. Yeah, that's what he reckons. Dollars. So we'll get it for a cool 15, you know, which is all right.
Some change there somewhere.
Which isn't too bad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And immediately, as soon as I saw that, I started thinking. I asked this question all the time about AI and T1000s, and I was getting murdered. Do you see a future? Because to me, because that technology's there, and they can move in the same way we do, maybe not as fluidly, but they can do everything that we would do. They've got opposable thumbs, fingers. They can do drinks. They could probably clean. They could probably bury things. They could do all kinds of things. Okay, 5 years from now, do you think we have something like that everywhere?
Some form, possibly, yes.
Yeah.
Will it replace? No, because I think the human interaction. So again, I take us back to COVID. Everyone said we started doing these hybrid models of events where people on a stage, it was going to blast it out to all these audience. Within 6 months, we changed that because people want to meet each other. People want conversation. People want a network. Business is generally done face to face. And you've seen it in your industry. There is robots who can clean.
Not very good ones.
Well, and I always say, there's always a person needed to change the water that's inside that robot.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's always got to be a human intervention.
Yeah.
And can that robot have if that robot delivers it badly, are you going to tell the robot off? Or are you going to tell the person who programmed that robot? Or
Elon, get your backside down here now.
So I think there's a place. Will it ever take away? Yeah. Who am I to argue with a guy who's got a lot more cash than me?
I know. All right. What if they make all of the robots look like Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum?
Well, no, I need to be careful here. No, still, I just think we're a people industry. We're people service. I think predominantly.
How crazy though that I mean, we've been doing this podcast 18 months and we talk about this all the time, but like now there's actual robots. That blows my mind.
It blows my mind. I was watching the news again and I was watching this rocket booster coming back down and
caught it with a robotic arm.
Now that blew my mind. I was thinking, hey, who sat there with a joystick going, is it cool? That off the clock.
Could you imagine the stress?
Get this wrong, and it all goes.
Yeah. It's probably as well some 12-year-old that's really good at Xbox. Come on, Elon, got this. Don't worry about it.
I think listen, this technology has changed the industry.
Yeah.
And it will continue to evolve. Digitalization, it will, and but for me, it's a tool that will enhance the industry. It'll always be people-led and be born on relationships between client, contractor, or just people themselves.
It's going to be a very exciting 5 years, I think, when you take into account AI, robots that can move and talk in the same way we do. I mean, it is.
Well, AI's, it's...
We're in the future.
How many times have you sat there writing a tender?
Yeah.
Days and days and days. You just get onto AI now, and you can write your tender in a matter of, minutes if you get it right and you put the right detail into it.
Yeah. Did you ever watch Panorama?
I did, yeah, I did.
And do you remember you used to watch Panorama? Is it still on?
Still
is
going,
it?
that, yeah.
Right, okay. I used to watch Panorama when I was a kid in the 80s, and they'd be like, what life will be like in the 2020s, and it's a little bit, they weren't far off.
Well, I put this post on LinkedIn, so I went to this top table and I was telling Ethan this, and I was thinking, 38 years service, this chap had done 38 years. I thought, the military has massively changed in that time. Off the clock changed. And I was coming down to the awards yesterday on the train. I thought, somebody on that stage tonight might have introduced some form of technology or some form of process that can change the industry for the next 38 years. And what does that look like?
Yeah.
If you think, what did the industry look like 38 years ago? And it's just.
It's filofaxes and Rolodex and no mobile phones. And it's not a long time ago.
Mobile phones, no mobile phones. Gen Z.
Yeah.
There'll be a riot.
Yeah, I know.
There'll be a riot.
The generation after Gen Z, they'll probably have them implanted in their heads or something like that. It is. When you start thinking about it, but it's not that far. But someone like Elon Musk who's thinking up these things, he's already talking about that. You know, human and machine interfaces and things like that. So it's going to be interesting.
Will I be around? I don't know.
We'll still be here, mate. You know what I mean? We'll still be here.
Somewhere, I'm not sure where.
In our chair going,
I remember when.
Right.
I remember when City got off with them 115 charges.
Yeah, exactly. Easy, maybe. I remember when City got relegated to the third division.
No, that's not going to
We sat in our armchairs and the grandkids will send a robot round with a hologram of their face on to wish them happy birthday.
Be feeding us.
Yeah, exactly.
The robot will be spoon feeding us.
Get a bed bath off a robot.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that they're thinking about that.
I know. Well, to be fair, it's just an interesting change. It's just quite interesting how things are moving forward.
And it's very dynamic.
Yeah.
The way it is moving now, and things, technology is changing, daily.
Yeah.
Good, bad, it can be debated, can't it? It can be debated, and I'm sure lots of, trying to get people, I've got a new chief exec and she prefers Teams as the main means of communication internally.
Yeah.
Email, don't do it unless you're sending something externally.
Yeah.
So and trying to get an old dinosaur like me to change, is and a number of us, and it's wow, really, and it is. But that's
she sends video messages rather than emails.
No, Teams emails, Team messages.
Okay. Yeah.
Teams chat.
No, yeah.
So it's that way. So it's that mantra. So and a lot of generation said do that.
Oh, they do. Yeah.
So it's quite interesting, and I think that whole email, I think it will change. That's where I can see probably in tech one of the biggest change.
So potentially, we could have seen the last letters and the last emails in our lifetime.
Potentially, yeah.
Now that's interesting. Yeah.
I think letters actually. The postman is on borrowed time.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. At all.
Mind you, I thought that about the milkman, but I still hear him every morning.
Every now and then one pops round, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, so final question. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you like to get up to outside of work without mentioning City.
That's hard. That's very hard. No,
City.
No, I do outside work. So I play a bit of golf.
Yeah.
I'm a fair weather golfer.
Yeah.
I go to the gym a lot. I do some mentoring.
Right.
So,
okay.
I do some mentoring, some young FM professionals. So that's my bit giving back.
Yeah, of course.
So I like that. I get quite a lot out of that. I'm quite passionate about seeing the next generation. So I do that outside of work, not in work time. But just good food.
Yeah.
I like to socialise.
Yeah.
Both before and after a win. It's just
couldn't help yourself. I knew you couldn't help yourself. You know what I mean?
Listen,
you
holidays.
Babe in the glory. Once certain pet leaves, it'll be all.
I like holidays. So I do that. I do have some bad habits on holidays. Laptop does travel generally.
Yeah. Working whilst on holiday. I'm the same, to be fair.
It's just.
I get told off, actually.
I get told off, but I'm. Again, that's one of my traits in life. I just don't like to come back being ambushed with something that's happened. I like to know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Well, it's that work-life balance, isn't it? So I like work.
Yeah.
I do like work. I enjoy the profession. I enjoy work, but I also enjoy my private life.
Yeah, of course. There's that balance in it. It's important.
It is, yeah.
All right, Andy. Well, that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you very much. How did you find it?
I enjoyed it, apart from the terrible jokes about City, and when the mic goes off, we'll just have a raging argument about City.
I don't think there was any bad joke about City. I think they were all legit and appropriate, to be fair.
You just don't talk with a southern twang like most Man United fans.
Well, no, I am northern, so I can kind of get away with it, to be fair. I was a season ticket holder for a long time, 13 years. My dad was from Lancashire. So,
Okay.
long time. So,
I won't hold that against you.
oh, well, what can I say? You know what I mean? I mean, I don't care if we never win another trophy. I live
don't.
through the 90s, mate. You know what I mean? I'm happy.
I've been to a cold, wet, rainy Walsall and then seen them get beat on a Tuesday night. So I've seen the bad times.
You'll be going again next year.
Here we go. Right, can we cut?
Right. Yeah, sorry.
Anyone get asked to do this, do not do it. It's the worst thing you can ever do.
I couldn't help it, Andy. I'm sorry. You walked into that. All right, but listen, thank you very much. I really appreciate you joining us on the show. That's it, guys. End of another show. Hope you enjoyed it. Andy's had an incredibly interesting career, and I'm sure that he won't mind if you reach out to him on LinkedIn if you have any questions.
Absolutely, yeah.
Or you'd just like to speak to him about how his advice can potentially help you. Thank you very much, Andy.
No problem.
And thank you very much, guys. As ever, if you can't be good, be bad. See you later.